recorders to trumpets, and if you're unlucky, violins, and even worse, drum kits. Kids love playing musical instruments, and schools for years have encouraged generations of children to take up music.
But there's a worry. That could all come to an end. Government cuts to local funding are threatening the future of music in schools. Greg Eastill has more.
You can hear why Egglescliffe School Silver Band has won awards, but today's practice isn't just a rehearsal, it's a requiem for something students fear will disappear within weeks. Across the country, many more like them face a similar predicament as politicians prepare to take some tough decisions on spending.
I want to go to uni to do music, and if they cut all the lessons, we'll have no groups to play, no like future in music, and it's just a big disappointment for everyone who's younger. 16-year-old
Robert Vaughan has spent years learning to play the tuba.
It's £9,000 and my tuition's paid for, this tuba's paid for.
And without the funding?
Without the funding, none of this would be possible. I wouldn't be playing and this band wouldn't exist.
This, then, is the young human face of the coalition government's austerity drive. But divisions remain as to whether this is simply the sort of thing that has to be stomached or whether it represents a cost cut too far. The head teacher here, for one, insists too many pupils nationwide who play instruments have too much to lose.
I'm inviting Mr Gove, the Secretary of State for Education, to come to Egglescliffe School and to watch our award-winning musical ensembles, and for him to see for himself just how special music is.
Her local Conservative MP, though, says key decisions have yet to be made and it's too early to be worrying too much.
It's being stirred up by a few local politicians who either don't understand the process and what's actually going on, or are trying to score a few cheap points.
But many pupils, parents and teachers insist, unless they speak up now, something good may soon disappear from thousands of UK classrooms, as more and more students and their families struggle to pay for lessons and instruments themselves.
Our political editor Sue Jameson with us on the sofa, along with musician and vocal coach David Grant. So we'll chat to you in just a second. David, this is something you feel quite strongly about, isn't it? You just don't want to see any cuts to
No, I don't want to see any cuts. Look, in 1981 there was a law that said it was illegal to charge for music lessons in schools. Then in 1987 there was a change in that law which meant that you could have one-to-one tuition if you paid. Now what it's meant is that less wealthy families have been disadvantaged for years and are about to become more disadvantaged unless the money that provides music education in school is ring-fenced. Now I know a lot of people say, look, there have to be cuts, so why should a ring-fence here? Well, here's why. Because children who study music across the board in all studies have been shown to do on average 35% better than children who don't. Across the board, 27% better in maths, up to 35% better in numeracy. It's not just something that you add on for kids who can only bang a glockenspiel. Yeah. It actually helps, and it helps the social cohesion of schools. Definitely. It's a massive thing to take it away.
I mean, so as we were talking, the money was ring-fenced really until this year, so it's at the discretion of local authorities, I'm assuming.
I think this is going to be the word we hear a lot of this year. You're talking about a sure start, and now we're talking about ring-fenced money. If it goes to the councils, that ring-fencing is taken away. It means they can do what they want with it, even if schools are saying, please, we need it for music. But I think what's happening now with the music industry is, you know, we've had the U-turn on the school sports partnership that Dan and I've talked about before. You've had a U-turn on free books for children. I think also the music industry is getting in now, before the iron gets too hot to strike with, to say, look, we've got to look at this. There is a review ongoing by the man who runs Classic FM. No one can doubt his credentials, but I think the government will look at that review and say, well, I think we can do it for less. And that's, again, another phrase we're going to hear all year.
See, the music business is one of the biggest generators of money in this country. I mean, last year, the music business generated £5.4 billion of income for Britain. If you stop music in schools, what you're going to stop is the access point for lots of kids who can't afford to buy instruments that are really expensive and can't afford tuition, and make music and music education in school the sole preserve of private schools. And I don't think that's right, because 93% of our kids go to state schools. I went to a state school. There needs to be access to music in state schools that's guaranteed.
This is just, you were saying earlier, it's as important to you at school, was as important to you at school as sport was to me, for instance, and
Absolutely.
it just shouldn't be underestimated.
It shouldn't be underestimated. Also, you know, you go to schools and where they have music and there's a cut in bullying, there's a greater social cohesion in schools. It's really an integral part of a rounded education. Not just education shouldn't be about targets. It should be about preparing people for life, and music is an essential part of that.
Definitely. Yep.
Thanks very much indeed. Nice
Thank you,
to
David.
meet you. Thanks for coming in, David. Cheers.
We're celebrating